It's been almost a week since the last Dead Rails update dropped, and honestly, I think this is the perfect time to sit down and talk about what could be coming next. If you guys remember, Rico Miller officially confirmed that with this update, the dev team is returning to their old schedule of bi-weekly updates. For anyone who doesn't know, that basically means we'll be seeing new content every 2 weeks, which is exactly how Dead Rails used to grow back when the game was really starting to gain traction. And because of that, I figured I'd return to one of my older video formats, where I dive into the official Discord, specifically the suggestions channel, and talk about concepts and ideas that could realistically end up in the game. And before people in the comments start saying, these aren't confirmed, let me just repeat myself here. These are community suggestions. They're not confirmed, but some of them are so popular and so well thought out that they have a real chance of showing up in Dead Rails down the line. If you've watched my past videos, you'll know this isn't just speculation either. A few ideas I covered before actually made it into the game later, maybe not because of me, maybe just because the devs like them, but either way, it proves they listen to the community. So take this video as what it is. Me sharing concepts, popular ideas, and just fun speculation. And before we get started, do me a huge favor and hit the like button and subscribe. It really does motivate me to keep making these breakdowns every single week. Alright, let's get into it. The first big idea, and probably the one you already saw in the thumbnail, is a brand new POI, the frozen lake. Imagine this. You're riding the rails and suddenly the train pushes out over a massive frozen body of water. The rickety sound of the tracks echoes as they stretch across the thick sheet of ice, and the whole place has this eerie blue glow beneath it. Every crack in the ice shines with light, and if you look down long enough, you can see shadows moving underneath. At first glance, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, Dead Rails is set in the desert. There's no reason why a frozen lake should even exist. But let's be honest, this is a game that already has ghosts, UFOs, and even unicorns. A frozen lake fits perfectly into that kind of weird, unpredictable world. But what makes Frozen Lake special isn't just the visuals, it's what spawns here. In this biome, you'd run into ice zombies, a new type of enemy that moves much slower than your average walker but makes up for it with brutal attacks. Every hit from them chills you, literally freezing your character's movements and slowing down attack speed. And while you're fighting these frozen horrors, the lake itself is your enemy too. The sound of cracking ice under your feet keeps you constantly on edge. Sometimes the ground shifts, sometimes you just hear a deep thud from underneath, reminding you that you're not the only one up there. The real incentive, though, comes from loot. Around the lake, you'd find jagged ice spikes sticking up with items locked inside of them. These could hold frozen supply crates, weapon upgrades, or even a brand new throwable. Ice darts that slow down whatever they hit. Suddenly, you're not just visiting this POI for the atmosphere, but because it's one of the only places where you can get tools that directly change your combat options. And let's be real, people are tired of only using the same handful of guns. Having something like ice darts that actually applies to buffs would breathe new life into the gameplay loop. Now, while Frozen Lake is my favorite concept, the community hasn't been short on ideas either. Take Elysium, for example. This guy has been dropping some amazing suggestions on the Discord, and one that really stood out is the idea of adding a new mini-structure. The Saloon. At first it looks like any other abandoned house, but when you enter it's a whole different vibe. There's a bar, barrels stacked in the corner, tables littered with bottles, and even a barista NPC. And the wild part? Not everyone inside is hostile. The saloon is full of outlaws who will leave you alone unless you mess with them first. You can even talk to some of them, getting hints about the lore, the virus, or just odd bits of backstory. But of course, Dead Rails wouldn't be Dead Rails without danger. If you start stealing or attacking, the outlaws will fight back, and the barista himself becomes a mini-boss. Taking him down rewards you with a key to the cellar, which is basically the jackpot of this structure. Inside, you'd find barrels of rare drinks, bonds, and other resources that make the whole risk worth it. It's the kind of structure that really adds flavor to the game. Not every building needs to be a zombie-filled nightmare. Sometimes a place with unique NPC interactions is just as exciting. And while the Saloon is fun, Elysium also pitched something much more dangerous, a crashed asteroid event. Picture this. Out in the desert, you stumble across a giant glowing crater where an asteroid smashed down months ago. According to the lore, the government sent scientists and soldiers to investigate, but none of them ever came back. Now the place is abandoned, glowing with this radioactive green aura, and it's crawling with enemies. The deeper you go, the more dangerous it becomes until eventually you're fighting creatures born out of the asteroid itself. The big twist here is a new bar mechanic. The closer you get to the asteroid, the more a radiation meter fills. When it maxes out, your health starts dropping and your movement slows, forcing you to manage time inside the crater carefully. And of course, at the heart of it all, there's a boss. The radioactive boulder. This thing is a giant glowing monstrosity with thousands of health, massive melee swings, and the ability to hurl radioactive boulders at you. Worse, it can revive nearby enemies and regenerate when standing close to the asteroid itself. Taking it down would be one of the hardest fights in the game, but the reward is insane. A radioactive core that not only sells for big bonds, but also acts as a damage-dealing item you can use against enemies. It's dangerous, it's brutal, and it feels like the kind of boss fight Dead Rails desperately needs. Switching gears, there's another cool suggestion floating around: a dedicated night mode. Right now, the game has difficulty modes, but this would crank things up a notch. Imagine being forced to survive in pitch darkness where vampire classes and night-based speed bonuses don't work at all. The whole experience would be harder than Nightmare mode, and to keep it balanced, it'd reward you with bonds for completion. There'd even be unique missions tied to it, like finishing a full Dead Rails run entirely in night mode, or doing it without any classes while only looting fuel sources like coal. It's punishing, it's sweaty, but it's the kind of challenge hardcore players are always asking for. And then there's the Outlaw base concept. Now this one is pure chaos. The moment you step into it, music kicks in and waves of outlaws start swarming you. We're talking groups of gunners, melee fighters, enforcers, and even a powerful outlaw leader with a massive cannon. Every minute you survive, the fight escalates until it feels like a full-blown raid. But the catch is that every enemy defeated comes with achievements, rewards, and eventually a final supply room, filled with high-tier loot. It's the kind of content that pushes teamwork and forces players to really strategize instead of just spraying and praying. And beyond individual structures, the community has been dreaming bigger too. Biomes, for example. Imagine the desert opening up into different regions like radioactive wastelands, cult-infested dwellings, or lush zones overrun with giant bugs. Each biome would bring its own enemies, bosses, and atmosphere, making every run feel unique. Pair that with rail paths, checkpoints where you have to choose between multiple possible routes, each leading to different POIs or bosses, and suddenly Dead Rails becomes much less predictable. Runs wouldn't just be about surviving, but about making strategic choices that shape what you'll face later. So yeah, those are some of the best concepts I've seen floating around the community recently, and honestly, I'd love to see even just one of them show up in the next few updates. Dead Rails has always thrived on its community's creativity, and with bi-weekly updates making a return, now feels like the perfect time for the devs to keep pulling ideas straight from suggestions and turning them into real content. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more community concepts turned into videos, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It helps way more than you think and keeps me motivated to cover Dead Rails every single week. Until next time, stay safe out there on the rails.